Boom, bang, pow!
Pop, sizzle, crash.
There you go, kids. It's 4th of July week. Coming to you a little early here with Sports Frenzy 2.0. We're actually taping on July the 2nd, a day earlier than normal. We'll get this out to you at some point on the 3rd, a little bit earlier than normal. Normally this would hit Thursday, which would be the 4th. Independence Day, where everybody's obsessed with blowing their fingers off and, shooting bottle rockets into people's eyes. But
we need time to do that, so that's why we're doing it early.
He is a conquistador, Dave Heights.
He's a maestro, Kevin Crane, and this is your favorite politically incorrect sports commentary, Sports Frenzy 2.0, baby.
That is right. As I mentioned, taping a day early, Tuesday, July the 2nd. And we'll get this out to you some point on the 3rd. Starting off with basketball, because the way the season is compressed for the NBA, we just wrapped up the playoffs. We're looking at training camp opening up at some point here in a couple months. But now we have to talk about the draft. We have to talk especially about the ridiculous money in free agency. And I know we've said this week in and week out, I do not understand how the NBA can sustain this model.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And we'll get into the numbers. Well, let's take care of the draft real quick. We were recording last week while the draft was starting up, and Dave pretty much perfectly, succinctly summed up the start of the draft. A couple of Frenchies went.
Yep.
And the thing is, something we've alluded to in the past again, without being able to enjoy the college game like we used to back in the 80s and the 90s.
There for 3 or 4 years.
We don't know these players. So what good does it do us to recap the draft when we don't know these players? We don't know how good they are, how good they were in college, especially how good they were overseas. So really, there was only, for our purposes, 2 notable picks. Everybody ripping into the Memphis Grizzlies for daring to take a chance at number 9 on Purdue's Zach Edey.
I don't think that they should be getting that criticism for taking him as a top 10 player. The guy is a stud. He can hit an outside shot. He can play at the rim. What's the problem?
I don't see a problem with it either. Remember when a couple years back we talked about the draft and the Magic had the number 1 pick, my Orlando Magic, my beloved Orlando Magic. And what did I say? I said, I want Paolo Banchero. I do not want Chet Holmgren. Remember that?
Right.
Tall, skinny, gawky white guy. And of course, Holmgren got injured right away, out first year, wiped from the record books, wasn't even considered a rookie because he did not play.
Right. Edey, to me, seems to have more bulk than Holmgren did.
Now, the thing is, Holmgren comes back this past season, classified as a rookie because he did not, again, play enough in his first year before injury. The thing they love about Chet Holmgren, this is the hypocrisy, comparing Zach Edey to Chet Holmgren, is Edey is a traditional inside player. And we don't want that anymore in the NBA for some reason. We want Chet Holmgren can hit threes. So that's why he was a more valuable commodity, even though frame-wise, build-wise, they're virtually identical.
So who's going to wind up with higher percentage shots? Edey, down low. He's going to be fine. That's a game. That is the part of the game that is missing. And that's what's wrong with part of what's wrong with the NBA. With all the run and gun, let's just shoot threes. Let's just shoot threes.
Yeah. And yes, I get the fact the game has changed. It has morphed. But, Dave and I we're thinking back to the days of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt Chamberlain and Akeem Olajuwon and Shaquille O'Neal.
Bill Russell.
Yes, when you had a dominant center, how important it
Parrish.
was.
Robert Parrish.
Now, there were guys like Ralph Sampson who didn't quite pan out.
Right. Bulls did not quite have the dynamic centers, but still, you had Wennington underneath. Was it Luke Longley underneath? They were there as outlets if the outside shots were covered. You need an inside presence still. It opens things up so much more if the defense has to collapse in to worry about somebody underneath. That opens somebody up on the outside if you really want it.
Yeah, and it's disturbing to me. Now, we're not going to go through all the free agent signings once we get there, but if you look at a team like the Knicks, of course, had a very, very good team this year. And then last week we talked about how they picked up Mikal Bridges from the Nets. But they basically, now that they've lost Isaiah Hartenstein to the OKC Thunder, they have virtually no presence in the middle.
No.
They have a injury waiting to happen with Mitchell Robinson. They're just going to put a whole bunch of wing players out there, and they think they can win that way.
Whatever.
I don't pretend to know about the NBA. It
gets to be so one-sided. That's why I don't watch it. I don't care. There's no defense.
I think you and I are just too old school because we think the same way, which is I want a dominant center. I want a good, strong power forward to back that guy up in terms of rebounding. Then your small forward should be scoring 30 points a game. Your shooting guard should be hitting 25 a game, and your point guard is meant to make the rest of them all look good. Whereas now it's all flipped on its head. The center is the least important player. The point guard needs to not only distribute, but to chuck
score
up threes,
40 points
chuck up threes and score 40 a game, like a Steph Curry. And not taking anything away from Steph Curry.
No, but
he's an anomaly. He is an anomaly. He's a Hall of Famer. He changed the game.
Yeah, and you cannot expect every team cannot expect to have somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody wants that. We saw it in the NFL. Once you had one dominant running quarterback.
Oh, everybody had to try it. Yeah, well, guess what?
We don't want a pocket passer. How many Super Bowls did Michael Vick win? How many Super Bowls did Tom Brady win? Case closed. You go. And of course, the other significant draft pick, Bronny James goes to the Lakers.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
And supposedly his agent did warn everybody off and say, do not pick him, otherwise he will go overseas and play. And I find this all fascinating because a couple things have developed here with the Lakers on top of Bronny going to play with his father. Number one, his father opted out of his deal.
Yeah.
So now he's expecting a new contract from the Lakers. Wouldn't it be funny if the Lakers said,
we're good.
Yeah.
We're going in a different direction. We want to get younger.
And then in a transition to our talk about the significant free agent signings, we're gonna start recruiting all these guys. We're gonna bring in all these big name stars with LeBron and with Davis and now with Bronny. And the first name listed was Klay Thompson. And even Klay Thompson's father said he was trying to push him to go to the Lakers. And Klay Thompson said, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go to a team that was just in the finals.
Yeah, why would you want to go to the Lakers? They are a train wreck. They have literally the rookie head coach. Redick has never coached at any level. What makes anybody think that the Lakers are going to be any damn good?
Yeah, and of course you have Street Clothes, who, yes, last year played very well and was healthy for most of the season, but that's like a Christian McCaffrey situation with the NFL, where you get one healthy year And you're like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God.
Don't count on it again.
Right. So Klay Thompson signs with the Dallas Mavericks. So he will join Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And I'll tell you what shocked me. Now, I know he is not what he used to be, and I don't even know if he was really all that great when he was with Golden State.
He was an okay role player.
But we just mentioned Steph Curry was a star. Draymond Green was the enforcer. He was the Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for a period of time, you had Kevin Durant. But I still find it odd, given we're going to get to the crazy money after this. But he took a 3-year, $50 million deal, considering some of these guys got $50 million per year.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson gets 3 years for $50 million to go to Dallas. So that should tell you how much his stock has dropped.
And that at this point, that's his best opportunity for a championship to get back.
Yep, to get another ring. Now, some of this stupid, ridiculous, crazy money I'm talking about, let me just rattle off maybe the top 4 or 5 free agent signings. And then I'm going to give you a number that should tell you how full of shit the NBA is. Okay, we'll start off modest. This one, very reasonable. Chris Paul goes to the San Antonio Spurs. We'll give them a veteran presence. I actually like this signing for them because it's only 1 year, $11 million.
That's cheap.
And
That's
he can help the young players, be a coach on the court for dipfuck Popovich, and coach up Victor Wembanyama a little bit.
Yeah.
Then it starts to get a little crazy. The man who pretty much stops playing when the playoffs start, James Harden, stays with the LA Clippers 2 years and $70 million.
Why do you give that guy that much money?
You know what he's going to do? He's going to blow it all in strip clubs.
He disappears when you need him the most. Why? Why? Everybody knows what he is.
Then we flip it to Philadelphia because the Clippers, remember, had Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Paul George, and couldn't do anything with those three. Kawhi Leonard, of course, I blame for a lot of this with the way he handled things with Toronto and then forcing his way into a big contract and then deciding I need maintenance days. I'm always hurt, but it's all guaranteed money, so what do I care?
Yeah, another head case.
Well, Paul George says see ya to the Clippers. So now the Clippers have only got Harden and Leonard left.
Yeah, good luck fielding a team with them.
But now you wonder about the 76ers. And this is where I want to start to talk about the salary cap in the NBA and how it is a complete and total scam. So they've already got Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid making right around $50 million a year. Okay? They decide to let's open up the purse strings. Let's bring in Paul George from the Clippers in his mid-30s. 4 years, $212 million.
There ain't no damn way he is worth that much money.
$53 million on average a year.
He is not worth it, especially at this point in his career.
Oh, but they weren't done yet, Dave. Tyrese Maxey, they say, let's get Tyrese Maxey back in the fold. 5 years, $204 million. No! So let's do the math here. Now let's play NBA salary cap bullshit. Right before free agency started, the league came out and said, oh, we have your final salary cap number for 24-25, this upcoming season.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what that salary cap number is, Dave?
What is that salary cap number?
$140.59 million. Now, if you do the math with what I just told you, with 3 players on the 76ers, $50 million for Embiid, $53 million on average
There's
for Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey about $40 million.
So pretty much you have your entire salary cap in 3 players.
But with all the little permutations and exceptions
and signing bonus,
you can re-sign your own player and go over the cap.
This is
horseshit. Why would you even tell people you have a salary cap number? Because it doesn't mean anything. We just showed you that the 76ers basically are already over the cap with 3 players. Where are the other 10 players coming from? And I don't want to hear how wonderful the NBA is. And how isn't it great how you can re-sign your own players and go way over the cap?
Then what's the point of having a cap?
The Knicks are the same way, because the Knicks just spent $212 million for 5 years on OJ Anunoby. We're not done yet. The Raptors gave Emmanuel Quickley, by all accounts, basically a second-string point guard. 5 years, $175 million.
Good Lord.
And then we'll get to the Celtics in just a minute. Because the Celtics might be worse than the 76ers. The Cavaliers keep Donovan Mitchell for 3 years and $150 million. Luckily, the Magic are showing something resembling restraint. They've brought back almost all of their current roster. And then they added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from the Nuggets for 3 years, $66 million, compared to these other ones,
That's
bargain.
Pretty damn reasonable.
So the Magic are pretty much going to ride with who they had last year, adding Caldwell-Pope, not going absolutely ape shit crazy with the money, which they'll have to do in a couple years for Banchero. But here we go with the Celtics.
But they're re-signing their own guys, so it's okay.
You're correct. You are correct.
By NBA math, it's all good.
Jason Tatum. Not even the MVP of the finals for his own team. Jason Tatum gets a record extension. 5 years, $315 million.
I would not have given him anywhere close to that.
So that, Dave, if my math serves me correctly, is $63 million a year.
He is not worth it.
Now, somebody pointed out that they are kind of, at the beginning of the contract, it's a little bit less, and at the end, it's a little bit more. I think they pointed out that the final year of the contract for Tatum will be $71 million. So he'll basically be getting almost $1 million for every regular season game. And that's assuming he plays every game.
Yeah. And we all know he's not going to.
None of them do. Then they decided to bring back Derek White on a 4-year, $126 million extension. So, again, you see where we're going with this? The Celtics, the 76ers, already with 3-4 players, depending on who you're looking at.
Gone is the cap.
But
it's their own players, so it's okay.
And then the irony of all this is after they won the championship, after they've signed all these players, because I believe Jaylen Brown got his big extension last offseason.
Yeah.
And I believe he's making about $50 million. Now, I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. It's bizarre, but this is the majority owner of the Celtics, Wyc Grousbeck, has decided, oh yeah, I'm going to sell my majority stake in the Celtics now.
I got my ring. Now I'm bailing out so I don't have to deal with the fallout of all this crap.
Yeah, I'm not paying these contracts. Hell no.
No.
Let some other sucker come in and do it. I hope you understand what we're getting at here, kids.
The numbers don't add up.
And I still think that at some point the NBA, remember when it happened with the NHL and the Piper came a calling
They
and
had to blow it all up.
And I think it's going to be coming for the NBA probably in about 5 years.
Yep, the day of reckoning is coming.
Unless they are getting such unbelievable amounts of money getting funneled in from overseas is all I can think.
All right. That's enough damn NBA talk.
Can I do 2 more real quick? No money, though. No money. Just want to point out one big trade. The Hawks send DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans. So now the Pelicans have a pretty impressive roster if Zion Williamson can stay healthy.
Yeah, he's the new 25, 35, 40-year-old man.
And then in coaching news, the Pistons, who are going to be paying Monty Williams forever.
God, Monty does not have to worry about coaching ever again.
They pick up the recently fired J.B. Bickerstaff as their new head coach, who, of course, if you just go, an hour and a half, 2 hours around the lake to the east to Cleveland, where he was coaching before, they take the Cavaliers cast-off head coach.
Retread.
Yeah, I was thinking that. The NBA is worse than any other sport, and they never get called out for it when it comes to retread coaches.
Well, the Lakers went out thinking outside the box.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I remember when the Spurs did that, when they brought in Jerry Tarkanian and how long that lasted.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, let's bring in a guy who gnaws on a towel and see how grown men respond to that. And now we're going to have an arrogant prick who has a podcast with the star player.
Yeah, and you're telling me that they never discussed this bullshit.
All right, I'm sorry, Dave. Now, please lead us into hockey. Get us away from the insanity of basketball.
Yes, let's skate away, shall we?
Ooh, what a great song.
I thought you would like that.
Oh, the great Dire Straits, yes.
Skating on to the NHL, we just had the draft this past weekend. And not surprising, the number 1 overall pick was Mr. Celebrini. So, goes to the Sharks.
Yep, Macklin Celebrini to the Sharks from Boston University. Keep that in mind because that will come into play in a minute.
Yep. And then at number 2, the Blackhawks got the top defenseman of this draft.
Don't make me say his name! You're trying to make me look like an idiot! Because it's impossible. It's worse than the Celtics majority owner's name. All right, I'll try it. At number 2, Artyom Levshunov.
Levshunov, yes, that's pretty close enough.
That's the best you're going to get out of me. Now, he goes to the Blackhawks.
They desperately need more defensive help.
Now, he went to Michigan State, and I do believe this was a rarity. Believe it or not, this is not like football, kids. This was a rarity, one of the few times where the top 2 picks in the draft, both were coming out of college. We're not international players. We're not coming out of high school. Yeah. There you go.
But, yeah, there you go.
So you feeling good about that part of the offseason?
Yep. And then the Hawks also picked at number 18 and picked up a center, and I cannot think of his name off the cuff.
But then we go to free agency.
Yep.
Because immediately after the draft, we go, now it's free agency. Kind of like the NBA. Again, very compressed timeline to get this stuff done because the seasons go so long.
Yep. And the Blackhawks have brought back Teuvo Teravainen back into the fold after the dipshit Stan Bowman effed everything up. More on him later, kids. So Tara Vinen back into the fold. This is going to be good. This will be a huge help for Connor Bedard.
Yep, he gets a 3-year, $16.2 million deal. And then they also bring in Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yep, he's coming back in. So
4 years, $22 million for Tyler.
yeah, they had to. That was part of the great shedding, trying to recoup draft picks 2 years ago. So bringing him back, I hated to see him go. Bringing him back, I'm happy with that as well.
It'll be nice to see the Blackhawks. Don't get mad at me for saying it. It'd be nice to see the Blackhawks relevant again.
Yep. And this is all, they had to tear it all down because Stan Bowman effed everything up by not knowing how to work with the salary cap, giving money here, there, everywhere, willy-nilly because he was a freaking moron as a GM.
But you said you want to talk more about him at the end of the show?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Along with some others, including the head of the NHL?
Yep. You know what that means, kids. Whenever we mention the end of the show, you know what that means.
Somebody's going to get a foot up their ass.
All right. In other NHL news, Anaheim bringing back the Mighty Ducks logo.
Okay.
Well, here's my thing. I'm so pissed off at Utah for what they're doing. Number one,
hockey club
dragging their feet, saying they couldn't make a decision or couldn't get a new logo and new uniforms in place.
Bullshit. They had plenty of time. So they had more time to pull this together, I think, than Vegas did.
Yeah, I believe that. And like you just mentioned, the stupid ass giving the wink, wink, nudge, nudge to a name that's supposedly in the fan voting finals, but saying we're going to call the team the Utah Hockey Club for this year only. That's prejudiced and biased. That's kind
absolute crap.
That's kind of saying we really want this to be the name, but you guys still have say with those other options.
Yeah.
Every other option on the table is better.
10 times better.
The Yeti, the Venom, I'm good with all of them except naming your goddamn hockey team like it's a goddamn soccer team. I hate soccer. And we'll talk more about that later.
Hint.
Maybe not at the end. Maybe not. Close.
Close to the end.
Close to the end. But I just like the fact that let's go back to the old, what it was meant to be, even though it's Disney. If you're going to go in and have a franchise and call them the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, then don't back off on it and go, well, I guess that time has passed. Let's just call them the Ducks.
Oh, but I guess we're going to go nostalgia now, and we're going to be the Mighty Ducks again.
If you hated the goddamn name to begin with.
Why did you do it?
Right. Name them the Anaheim Bloody Marauders. Don't go, we're going to go back to the Mighty Ducks now. Jesus Christ, do I have to do everything for you people? Then finally we had, in hockey, the year-end awards ceremony. Congratulations.
Yep, Rookie of the Year, Connor Bedard, rightly so.
Which, of course, is what, the Calder Trophy?
Yes.
And then the Hart Trophy for basically MVP goes to Nathan McKinnon, center for the Colorado Avalanche. And now they get a couple months off to rest, relax.
Right back at it again.
Yep. All right, so now we move on to baseball. And yesterday was the most glorious day of the year.
Bobby Bonilla Day.
Bobby Bonilla getting a little over $1 million.
Again.
Seems like each and every year. It will end at some point. But until it does, we will all revel and rejoice in Bobby Bonilla Day, even though there are so many other stupid,
more egregious deals and
deferred money. Yep, the one that everybody seems to pass over is Baltimore still paying Chris Davis $9 million a year. And that's going on for quite a while, too.
Yeah.
And then once we get to Shohei Ohtani,
then forget about it.
if we're still alive,
no kidding,
because
Good
of how far
Lord.
they pushed that out. But that's, remember, $30 million, I believe, right? A year deferred?
Yeah, $30 million a year,
I believe,
deferred.
All right. And you can tell Dave and I are trying to find any and every possible excuse to not talk about our teams.
Yeah, but even not talking about our teams, I'm still going to reference my team as the Marlins. Just DFA'd shortstop Tim Anderson. It wasn't all that long ago when he won a batting title, where after the Field of Dreams game with a walk-off home run against the Yankees, he was being declared the new face of Major League Baseball. My, how he has flushed himself down the toilet in his career.
He's not that old, is he?
No, we're 4 years removed from that game? And he's done. And he can pretty much blame himself by fucking up his personal life, by screwing around on his wife, having another kid with somebody else. Idiot. Outside distractions.
White Sox are 24-62.
Ugh,
They did just
30 games out.
They did just win a series, though, right?
They did. They took 3 out of 4 at home from the Rockies.
And the Cubs suck.
They're trying to come back to the Sox.
39-46. And the more I think about the trade deadline and if it ends up that they're going to start sending out assets, shipping them out, I'm like, who are you going to be able to trade? I don't see, nobody's taking Bellinger in that contract. They're not going to trade Ian Happ as much as
nobody wants Ian Happ.
They're not going to trade Suzuki. They're not going to trade Swanson. Those guys are too early into their deals. The only guys they've got they could trade are Hendricks, who, again, blew up the other night after having 3 or 4 good quality outings, whether he was a reliever or a starter, and then he went back to early April, May Hendricks, letting up 7 runs. And I love the guy. I do.
But
he's shot. He's a shot fighter. So again, 39-46 for the Cubs. This Sunday game was an absolute embarrassment. The one where Hendricks let up 7 runs. The team only got 2 hits for him. I'm not going to talk any more about the Cubs except when I get to the WNBA. I have a life lesson for one of the Cubs players, and I'm going to point out somebody in the WNBA who learned what the fuck she needed to do to right the ship. And I think there's a Cubs player who needs a lesson like this. So that's a little teaser, kids. A little foreshadowing. Hey, Dave, we had another in-game interview screw up.
I hate the fucking in-game interview.
This past Friday, Houston shortstop Jeremy Pena, while he was being interviewed by Apple TV Plus, misplayed a pop-up, and it went for a hit. And I believe his teammate, Mr. Bergman, gave him the death stare from third base.
As because he should have.
The ball kind of dropped in between the two of them, and Bergman didn't know what to do.
Because that's the shortstop's ball. I'm sure he was calling him off. Stop the in-game interviews. Stop distracting the players.
Now, you had the Phillies last week, right, in our competition?
I did.
You picked a bad week to have the Phillies, even though they still got you, 4 wins?
Yeah, it should have been more because they sucked.
Well, legitimate reason why. Early in the week, both Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber went on the 10-day IL.
Yeah, I know. That hurt.
Harper with the hamstring, Kyle Schwarber with the groin.
Never won a groin pull.
Yep. So your two biggest bats in the lineup were gone pretty much for the entire week. So that would explain
That
why.
hurt. That
you
hurt.
Still got 4 wins. You just didn't make up any ground.
Yeah, that's the problem, is with the Phillies, we should have made up ground.
Yep. And then congratulations, not quite Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week territory, but close. Congrats to Texas Rangers rookie Wyatt Langford, who in only his 59th game in the big leagues hit for a cycle, the first cycle in the entire major leagues in 2024.
Good for him. One of the most difficult things to do.
And then finally, this is all I got in baseball. And unless you got something, we'll move on. But you mentioned how you found it intriguing, and I agree with you to a point, that the Toronto Blue Jays look like they're going to be selling off a big amount of their assets.
Yeah, after the last 2 years of competing, now they're scuffling last in the division, and they're selling off all their assets, trying to trade out and rebuild again. I hate this bullshit. You've got a solid young team, and you're parceling them off.
Yep, and we talked about, what was it, a month ago, Kevin Biggio DFA'd. He went to the Dodgers, I believe.
Yeah, he was struggling a little bit, but come on.
And now you mentioned Bo Bichette and
Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, Vladdy Jr.
Both on.
Now, I did mention to you that there is one statistic that might be fueling this for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, the stats geeks again?
No. This is our type of stats.
Oh,
this
okay.
is a legitimate stat that might explain why the ownership is becoming disenfranchised with these players. I'm going to tell you about a record-setting number first. I think it tied a record, let's put it that way, for the month of June. We just started July. We're taping here July the 2nd. In June 2024, the Baltimore Orioles hit 60 home runs in June. Believe that ties them for a record for the most home runs in a month. Now, first we'll look at our teams. Again, kids, keep in mind.
Do the Sox even have 60 on the year?
Keep in mind, we have played April, we have played May, and then we've played June. 3 months of baseball. The Orioles hit 60 home runs in one month. The Cubs, for the entire season, the Chicago Cubs have 82 home runs.
Oh, boy.
The Chicago White Sox, 75. Now, these are numbers as of yesterday,
July 1st.
The Toronto Blue Jays, going back to them, believe it or not, I think they are in the middle between the Cubs and the White Sox with total home runs for the year. Their home run numbers are really down.
Are rancid.
Vladdy Jr. is not hitting the ball out of the park like he used to. Their power numbers are way down. George Springer looks like a disaster of a signing.
Let's say for the most part, power numbers are down.
Right.
Across all of baseball. So why are you going to bail?
We will see. We have still got, 4 weeks before we really get close.
Yep.
To the panic mode, to the trading deadline for baseball.
Yep. And we have our weekly 300 hitter update, kids. As of July 1st games, we have 13 hitters batting over 300, one less than we had last week. You know, Luis Rengifo of the A's, and coming into tonight's action, Aaron Judge from the Yankees tied with the highest batting average at a meager 317.
That's tops?
That's tops.
What happened to Ohtani? Is he in a slump?
316.
Okay, he's slumping
right
then.
below. Your batting average leader should be well over 320.
Oh, 330, 340.
At least.
Yes.
I mean, this is absolutely pathetic.
And
so, is it any wonder numbers are down outside of Judge's home runs?
right. Yeah, he's getting close to a historic pace on the home runs. And by the way, just a side note on Luis Reniflo.
Renagifo?
Yeah, I know. It's a bitch of a name to pronounce.
Whatever.
But he would not be there. He would not be there. I know this because I have him on a fantasy team. If it wasn't for the injuries to Rendon and Trout, he would have been a bench player, a part-time player, wouldn't have qualified, but now he has been forced to play for the Angels every day.
Oh,
with
gee.
those two cupcakes out again.
A bench player who's actually doing well when he gets an opportunity over your high-priced snowflake China dolls.
Yeah, and he steals a lot of bases too.
There you go.
So, more along the lines of the prototypical kind of leadoff hitter, the Luis Arias type of guy. For me, with the Cubs, even though he's having a down year, the Nico Horner type of guy. More of what we need. We don't need more Ian Happs in the world.
No. You need more Pete Crow Armstrongs. Guys who can make contact, get on base, and take not one but two bases in a sequence.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're playing him almost every day. His batting average is low, but he does make things happen. And he does get some clutch hits. And like you said, he gets on base and he makes things happen. And I know Happ, my weekly hatred for Ian Happ, and he's probably, yes, the best hitter the Cubs have got right now, but that's not saying a lot.
No.
He's still only hitting about 230, and he's still only on pace for about 22 home runs. So I'm sorry, it's still not a dynamic, awesome player. I want an Aaron Judge. I want to show it. Give me a guy who will hit 50 home runs. Oh, I forgot. We had one in Kyle Schwarber and let him go. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. My bad. Note, sarcasm. All right. Moving on to NASCAR. So I'm pretty happy that even though we are doing this a day early, 6 of our 8 panelists have their picks in for the Chicago Street Race, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So far, we have 6 different picks also.
Not surprising, since this is only the second street race.
Now, of course, I have a tale of woe as we look to recap the Nashville race, the Ally 400. And I can't blame my DVR because, of course, there was a rain delay, and NBC said, we've got to show you the Olympic trials, so we're going to have to move the race from NBC to USA Network.
How about you put the fucking Olympic trials on the USA Network? Because really, nobody gives a shit about the Olympics trials.
So, of course, I didn't want to stick it out through the rain delay, so I went off and did other things and maybe took a little siesta. And I come back and I flip on the race from where I left off. And then I fast forward through to when they start up again. And it gets to the point where they're telling me, we're switching over to USA. Done. So I didn't get to see the last 70 laps of the race or the 5 overtimes. Where our driver, who 7 of the 8 of us picked, was in really good shape.
And gets taken out in the first overtime. Kyle Larson drove like an asshole.
And isn't Kyle Larson supposed to be doing that to Denny Hamlin?
Yeah, instead
not
he takes
Ross
out
Chastain.
Ross Chastain.
fucks our night completely over.
Ugh. Absolutely ridiculous. And how did fucking Joey Logano manage to eke that out on gas mileage? There's no fucking way that should have happened. They better have torn that car apart. Unless over the last 70 laps he was mired so far back that he couldn't hit maximum speed and was off the throttle. Maybe that
Now,
was the
the
difference.
Fords,
I don't know.
the Fords have always been able to somehow get the best gas mileage. I will say that. But without having seen it, I can only speculate.
Yeah, it was very questionable.
Of course, Denny Hamlin had the pole. I wish, of course, I could have seen all of this, because up until the point where my DVR crapped out, it was a hell of a boring race. I saw right when things were starting to get interesting when Christopher Bell wrecked out. With the dominant car, he won both stages.
Yeah.
And then he wrecks out, and I'm like, oh, shit. Now things are getting interesting. Oh, we're going to the Olympic trials now.
Yeah. It did get good. It was coming down. Chastain.
Ah! God damn it!
Chastain on 2 tires wound up being out front, but Hamlin had 4, was able to run him down and just got by him right before, with 3 or 4 to go. Caution came out. Reese stacking everything, and then Larson takes out Chastain. Just mass chaos, and then
obviously many restarts as we went
many restarts,
5 overtimes, record 5 overtimes, but Joey Logano punches his ticket into the playoffs.
Yep. And NASCAR did everything they could to help Kyle Busch try and get a win. Absolute bullshit call on NASCAR's part. The first overtime, he's running 4th. And Larson wrecks Chastain. Chastain hits the wall and is sideways in front of Busch. Busch has to woe it down to avoid getting into him. It happens every week, kids. NASCAR doesn't do anything, except this time, where they thought, oh, he did the right thing by not getting on the gas and causing more mayhem, so we're just going to put him back in the 4th spot. Lame-ass, weak excuse. They never have done anything like that. And I kudos to Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte for calling NASCAR out during the broadcast, saying that that was a ridiculous move. Good for them, because it was absolute bullshit. And as a result, when Kyle did get in a wreck in one of the overtimes, everybody cheered because he was taken out and that advantage he was given didn't come into play.
Then we had, just news came down right before we started recording. Carson Hocevar gets a $50,000 fine along with 25 driver points for, I believe, wrecking Harrison Burton.
Yep, under caution. Not a cool move. You do not do anything on pit road. You do not do anything under caution. Big no-nos in NASCAR's eyes. Hocevar deserved that because it was so blatant.
Well, unfortunately, this week, the news is not going to get better for Harrison Burton because, again, we're taping on July the 2nd. The news coming probably July the 3rd, Wednesday morning. Wood Brothers are going to bring in Josh Berry to run the number 21 car in 2025, which means Harrison Burton is out.
Got to do something to liven it up.
Well, and Josh Berry, ever since the news came out about Stuart Haas shutting down, he's been fantastic.
He got caught up in some shit in the overtimes and during the race.
But he's running the last 3-4 races, he's been running at the front.
Yeah.
And looking very good doing it.
Yeah. So he's showing what he can do right now.
Yep. Hendrick Motorsports, this is a sad story. I'm sorry, this is sad because it involves boobies. Hendrick Motorsports has been forced to end their Hooters sponsorship deal early, effective immediately.
Because Hooters is not paying the bills.
Right, they've had to shut down 44 locations in the U.S. They are having financial difficulties. So there will be no more Hooters on Chase Elliott's car for the rest of the year. They were supposed to be, I believe, the primary sponsor for one more race.
Yeah.
And that is now gone bye-bye. So no more boobies for Chase Elliott. Now, I don't know about his personal life. It's not for me to say. Now we've got a scandal. We got a good old scandal that the media is trying to hide from us, Dave. We will not tolerate that.
So.
Now we know Aric Almirola, semi-retired. He dropped out this year of the Cup Series, but he's been running
the Xfinity
for Joe Gibbs on a part-time basis.
Yeah.
Did you know that he has been suspended secretly by Joe Gibbs Racing? He will be back for Indianapolis.
Really?
Because,
what did he do?
Because during a Toyota drivers meeting, which included both JGR drivers and 2311 drivers, he got into an altercation with one Bubba Wallace and was suspended by Joe Gibbs Racing indefinitely. But nobody's talking about this. Nobody's covering this. There are very few stories.
What did Bubba do to start it is my
Oh,
question.
no, Bubba. Bubba didn't do anything. Bubba didn't do anything.
Bubba is his own worst enemy.
Bubba has been dropping little bon mots about Aric Almirola and saying he's two-faced, but I can't talk about the situation. You know, they're trying to protect people's images, but I can't talk about the situation.
Whatever.
Bubba Wallace, I can't stand Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is what's wrong with DEI, not Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, Bubba Wallace can drive a Cup car.
He can't get out of his own way, though.
But the thing is, he acts like an entitled little bitch and thinks because he's the only black driver, yes, I'll say it, the only black driver on the circuit, it's hands off, he can say whatever he wants, he can do whatever he wants, and God help you if you turn to him and say, why'd you fucking wreck me, you prick? Why do you act like an entitled little douchebag? Oh, you're suspended. No, you can't talk to the golden child like that. Here's an idea, Bubba. Why don't you fucking win something, and then we'll get back to you, okay?
There's a novel idea.
And I don't know, maybe Aric Almirola is an asshole behind the scenes. I've never seen anything to indicate that in interviews.
No, by all accounts, Almirola is one of the nicest guys in the garage.
But why does it always seem like he's got issues with Bubba Wallace?
Why does everybody seem to have issues with Bubba Wallace?
And again, I get sick of the hands-off bullshit when it comes to Bubba.
But hey, let's go to some good news. Let's give congratulations and a warm American welcome to our newest citizen, Daniel Suarez.
Yes, Daniel Suarez now dual citizenship.
Yep. So, very cool.
Yep.
Congratulations and welcome, Daniel.
In other racing news, before we get to our picks for the Grant Park 165, hey, somebody other than Max Verstappen won the Austrian Grand Prix, and on top of it, now George Russell won the Austrian Grand Prix. But
who?
George Russell.
Who?
I think it's like his second career win in F1. But there was a little tangle there between Verstappen and another driver, and we started going back to what we just talked about with Bubba Wallace. people are starting to say now Verstappen's acting like an entitled little bitch.
He has been for the last 2 years. Come on.
So
He's
everybody
almost
was
Verstappen is getting almost as bad as Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton was a pretentious little douchebag as well when he was winning all those races and championships. God forbid anybody touched him and crying like a little baby.
so
But
good.
that's what you get in Formula One.
But good for George Russell.
Good for him.
Mix it up a little bit. Mix it up a little bit. And then haven't got a comprehensive update yet, but we're still thoughts and prayers are still with John Force, the legendary
funny car racer.
Yep.
Still in the hospital after that nasty wreck a little over a week ago.
Yep, still worried about the brain trauma situation. So of course, thoughts and prayers still will go out to John Force each and every week until we get him back. So that makes us ready, set, go for race 20 of the NASCAR Cup season. July the 7th, 2024, this coming Sunday, the Grant Park 165, the Chicago Street Race, as Dave mentioned, second year for this. First year, of course, shortened by rain. Shane Van Gisbergen won. Now, number one, we know how hard it is to go back-to-back, not only during the normal schedule, but
week to week, but year to year.
Right. But the elder statesman thinks it's going to happen. So first up, we'll give you Sam's pick as he predicts a back-to-back Shane Van Gisbergen show at the Chicago Street Race.
Yep. I am going to roll with Chase Elliott. Definitely in need of a solid run. So we'll see how this road course pans out for him. I flirted between him and Reddick. There's a couple of other tracks that I'm looking at Reddick for.
And I'm taking Tyler Reddick. So there you go.
There you go.
I was flirting with the Van Gisbergen pick, but I think this race will go the distance. And I just like the regular road course NASCAR drivers, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, maybe even an AJ Allmendinger, throw him in there. Maybe Christopher Bell, but I'm not saying it was a fluke. I think eventually Van Gisbergen will get into the Cup Series full time.
Yeah. Circumstances worked in his favor last year.
Exactly. I think we run a full race here in good weather. The guys
not taking anything away from him.
No, I'm sure.
Racer,
I think he's going to have a top 10.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I got him on my fantasy team. I just don't think he's going to win. Now, the other three picks that are in, again, this is early. Nick is taking William Byron. Doug is taking Ryan Blaney. And Bill, who's pissing me off with his laissez-faire attitude. I don't care about NASCAR. I'll just take whoever because I don't want to do the research and who cares, even though I live outside of Chicago, about this stupid street race.
Blah, 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 blah.
And you can tell by his pick. He's going by last year because, again, rain shortened. Justin Haley finished second, so he's taking Justin Haley.
And because Haley also led the most laps as well.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen this year.
No, he's being a little bitter bitch. That's just inside drama. Inside drama here at Sports Frenzy, kids.
All right, if you're done airing our dirty laundry over these podcast airwaves, we can get back to sports on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Otherwise known as iHeartRadio. And, of course, check out the Facebook page. We gave you 6 of our 8 picks for the Chicago Street Race. Check out the Facebook page later on this week, probably about Thursday morning, and we will have all 8 picks. And, of course, every Sunday night we have our baseball picks. And then when it comes to football season, Yeah, all the freaking football
500
picks.
million picks a week.
Depending on the mood I'm in. Don't pick angry, Kev. Don't pick angry.
And don't forget the weekend edition, your Saturday morning hangover cure, your place for politically incorrect pop culture.
Yeah, we've got a mixed bag this week. Some of the stuff Dave didn't get to, so I'm going to kind of give you my viewpoint on stuff like part 2, not season 2, part 2 of that 90s show, and Nickelback's documentary now on Netflix, Hate to Love. We'll both review a movie from about 6 years ago called Upgrade.
Yep.
And then we'll discuss the latest episode of The Boys.
So good. So good.
All right, let's go into college sports for a few minutes. Since it's July 1st, of course, Bobby Bonilla Day, but also officially the day that changed the landscape for all of college football. Yes, July the 1st was the day when all that realignment became official, with USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten and yada yada, and
the Pac-2.
And now you officially have the Pac-2. Yes. So it's happened, kids. It is now official, and we shall see, God help us, where we go from here.
The fallout is going to be absolutely stupid.
Locally here, Notre Dame, scheduling news. And you are trying to start controversy with this, which I'm not sure about. You're saying this is hint, hint, wink, wink of the future of Notre Dame. Notre Dame announces they will have a home and home series with Michigan State in South Bend.
Just throwing out there the realignment. Is Notre Dame going into the Big Ten or not?
See, you're starting trouble, Dave. Stop it. Notre Dame is fiercely independent. They're not giving up their TV deal for anybody.
There will be something in a contract coming down the line.
Notre Dame will play Michigan State in South Bend in 2026 and at Michigan State
up in East Lansing
2027. Then finally, hate to report this stuff, but this guy is a big-time player, borderline Heisman Trophy candidate, Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon II, arrested on suspicion of DUI. And of course, his coach went to the jail and goes, "I'm a man! I'm 50! I can get away with this! You can't!"
You little pissant! Why don't you just transfer to Georgia?
Like everybody else, goddammit!
Everybody with a driving issue is in Georgia.
Or with the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, moving on to college basketball. Of course, we talked about the fact that TNT looks like they might lose the NBA. So they've decided to shift over to the college game, where they have landed a chunk of the Big East basketball contract.
Very interesting. Now, teaming up with Fox and NBC.
Yeah, NBC also for the first time ever. Now, Fox will still be the primary.
Yep.
But NBC and TNT jumping in with the Big East for the first time, a 6-year deal starting the 25-26 season. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the podcast each and every week, when I pull out a little nugget, a little tidbit that's going to piss Dave off. 16 former college basketball players, are suing the NCAA because they've been using the plays from former past March Madness tournaments, using their highlights without compensation. I believe that's the horn of disgrace.
You guys suck balls.
We could also pull out a "we fucking told you so" on this.
Yep. going back to those assholes from North Carolina State with their championship run. So we said that opened the door for every douchebag to come out now and sue for name, image, likeness crap. Fucking deal with it.
So now college basketball, and I'm sure college football,
Done.
can't promote their
over.
own sport without getting permission from the players who are in the highlights that they show.
You know what? Done.
How ridiculous
Done.
is this?
No more highlights. Done. Just sorry.
Yep. We're not going to. Why would we promote you? Why would we promote you if all you're going to do is turn around and sue us for not giving you money?
You greedy little bitches.
All right. Let's try to do something positive here, Dave. Let's do a Clint Eastwood badass of the week, can we?
Sure.
From the world of golf.
I
want to call out, give a shout out to Frank Bensel Jr. And you go, who, maestro? Who the hell is Frank Bensel Jr.? Well, Frank Bensel Jr. played at the U.S. Senior Open last weekend. Frank Bensel Jr. hit back-to-back holes in one.
Holy crap.
On number 4 and number 5 at the Newport Country Club, using the same ball and the same club.
Kudos.
Now, there are some very interesting little side notes here. Now, number one, very rare, obviously, to pull this off, especially because most big courses, big-time courses, do not have back-to-back par threes.
Right.
He got lucky enough here with Newport Country Club, the 4th hole, the 5th hole, both par threes. I believe he used a 6-iron on both, and again, same ball. Now, this happened back.
Did they cut the ball open to check for a transmitter?
This happened back on Friday, June the 28th. Just so you understand how rare this is. Odds makers say that for you to be able to record as a golfer 2 holes in one round, not back to back, in one round to get 2 holes in one, the odds are 67 million to 1. And he did this on back-to-back holes. Now, the sad thing is a couple of downer notes. I've always got to have downer notes on this.
It didn't help his overall score, did it?
No, he missed the cut. He missed the cut, despite back-to-back holes in one. And get this. You're going to love this. He was in the very first group at the U.S. Senior Open. NBC was covering the U.S. Senior Open, but did not have their cameras set up for the first group.
So there's no record of it.
The only thing they show is him pulling the ball out of the 5th hole.
Oh,
after the 2nd hole in one.
Bad form. Bad form.
There you go. There's always got to be a little bit of negativity, even with a positive Clint Eastwood badass of the week story. But let's keep going with the negative. Now, we don't normally talk about soccer. We don't like soccer all that much. But anytime we can make fun of the U.S. men's national soccer team, we're going to do it.
Why? Because they suck. They are the most disjointed team you could ever possibly imagine. Overrated. For what they accomplished, they're always overrated. They haven't accomplished jack shit.
Already out of this Copa America tournament, which they were supposed to be not favorites, but supposed to advance fairly far in. Already out of the group stage, putting pressure on their head coach, Greg Berhalter.
How about the players just suck?
See, this sounds like the Cubs to me. You know, I'm not blaming Craig Counsell after 85 games. How about the players suck ass? How about that? Same thing.
Now, as we look back on the Sox, maybe I have to say my apologies to sleepy, drunk-ass Tony La Russa for not getting the most out of the team.
I tell you, I think
because you've seen now Abreu is out of the league, DFA'd. Anderson's gone.
I think we don't give enough credit for these managers trying.
Now,
and for the front office, we should give more abuse to the front office for the bullshit moves they make, trying to say, well, I'm so smart and I'm always right. This guy we're bringing in or this guy we're bringing up from the minors is just great. And if you can't make it work with him, there's something wrong with you. Maybe the
player just sucked. No, I'm not giving La Russa any credit. He was useless and never should have been bought back. But no, the players failed miserably, and they continue to fail.
All right, now I'm going to move on to my WNBA update for the week. But in this, I'm going to have a life lesson for a Cubs player. But first up, I'm going to give kudos, props, credit, borderline Clint Eastwood badass to Angel Reese. As much as I can't stand her as a human being. And the more I watch the WNBA, Dave.
Yeah.
Man, there are a lot of nasty, mean, awful women in this league.
Yes, there are.
More so than the men's game.
You thought Draymond Green was a dirty player? Look out.
He's like fucking Mother Teresa.
Compared to these bitches.
And I've got more on that in a second. But Angel Reese, despite her attitude issues, already as a rookie, sets the record. 10 straight double-doubles. No WNBA player has ever done that.
Kudos to her.
Now, and I'm not backing Caitlin Clark here. I'm telling you. We'll be very interested to see how the rest of the season goes, because if Angel Reese keeps this up,
she's going to be Rookie of the Year.
She might deserve it more than Caitlin Clark, although Clark's having a great year. But she's turning the ball over a lot.
Yep, too many turnovers.
Now,
can't have that.
Speaking of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, Caitlin can get a little snippy at times. Now, they had a great come-from-behind win against Phoenix this past Sunday. Caitlin did play a great second half. But before that, after their last embarrassing loss, I believe it was against Seattle, somebody asked Caitlin Clark, a reporter, in the post-game press conference, asked her, what's the best in-game advice you have gotten so far this year? And she said, I wish I've gotten some good in-game advice. And everybody took that as her slamming her head coach, Christy Sides. So then they come out, they play an inspired second half. They beat Phoenix, but this is where two things I want to point out. Number one, talking about the mean-ass bitches.
Yeah.
This 42-year-old Diana Taurasi, I know she's a legend. She's nasty. She plays dirty.
She's awful.
Trash talks. And she's the one that basically said, we don't want Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team. But my 42-year-old ass deserves to be on there for the 6th time or whatever it is.
Get your geriatric ass out of there.
And then, of course, you know who else plays for Phoenix? The he, she, it, Brittany Griner. And that's another one. You can see that. She plays dirty.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Phoenix is a very unlikable team. Let me just put it that way. Now, I will apologize to Aaliyah Boston, last year's number 1 pick for the Indiana Fever. I gave her a hard time at the beginning of the year. Didn't seem like she wanted to mesh with Caitlin Clark. Wasn't really trying to change her game now that Clark was in the fold as a point guard. And this is my life lesson for one Christopher Morel of the Chicago Cubs. Aaliyah Boston started off the season. She's got these long braids, right? These long, not dreadlocks, but long braids. And she had, beginning of the season, like 5 or 6 different colors. And it seemed like she was more worried about what color she had in her hair
than her game.
Improving her game. And then all of a sudden, as the Fever have turned their season around and started playing better, guess what Aaliyah Boston did? Now she's just got straight, regular black hair, got all the color out of it, and I think she realized...
she's back as part of the team?
I think she realized it's time for me to start focusing on my game and getting better and not worrying about colors in my hair or making a statement or whatever she's doing. Christopher Morale, Chicago Cubs. Yeah, you got 15 home runs, but you're batting under 200. How about you stop worrying about how many different fucking rings and trinkets and beads you've got in your fucking hair? Stop worrying about that and worry about figuring out how to hit a goddamn curveball. Maybe you need to take a lesson from Aaliyah Boston, who's turned her season around and is now playing like an all-star because she's getting rid of the distractions. How about you with your goofy-ass braided, beaded hair? I don't care if it's a cultural thing. Fucking shave it all off. Worry about your game. Worry about figuring out how to be better than a 198 hitter. How about that, dip fuck? Because I'm losing patience with him, too.
Yep, he's been awful. Little NFL highlight. The Bears have granted Jonathan Owens leave from camp so he could go to Paris to support his wife, Simone Biles, in the Olympics.
There you go.
Cool gesture on the new team's part.
And then the one other NFL little tidbit, we'll see where it leads. But, of course, $4.7 billion in damages ruled upon for that Sunday ticket case. Now, of course, because it involves antitrust, I believe it's treble damages.
Yes.
So it's triple $4.7 billion. But, of course, they will appeal.
The NFL has deep pockets.
So we'll see where this goes. We will see if anybody...
Because each team can be on the hook for over $460 million on this one.
Yeah, we'll see if these businesses and these individuals end up getting something out of this. Now, of course, we move on to moments of silence. One big one this week. Hall of Famer, baseball player, Orlando Cepeda passed away. One of the great players from that 60s era, roughly.
Yeah.
And then now I've got to be an asshole before we move on to the dumbasses of the week. I'm going to be an asshole, as if I haven't been a big enough asshole already tonight. This is going to be really mean. Okay? I'm sorry. There are so many people out there. So many hundreds and thousands and millions of people out there who have loved ones or are personally suffering through cancer. And of course, we want to cure. Well wishes, best thoughts to every single person out there who has to suffer through this disease. But I'm getting a little tired, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tired of the bi-weekly thoughts and prayers for Dick Vitale. For the 15th time, it seems like, in the last 2 years, Dick Vitale has cancer. And we want him to get better. But I get tired of the sports world having to stop every time he's got a problem. It's gotten to that point where it's almost like the boys...
more so than anybody else. And you're right, not to be mean, but come on. Enough is enough already.
This time around, it's lymph node cancer. And we're not trying to denigrate people who have cancer, but we're trying to put the spotlight on everybody who has to suffer with this, not just Dick Vitale. Again, every other week, we get a Dick Vitale update about some kind of cancer he's got. Okay, we get it. He's not
sick.
well, and we want him to get well. But over and over and over and over again, it's just too much of a focus on one person.
Exactly.
And with that, we move on to America's favorite portion of the Sports Frenzy podcast. I mean, every moment, every part should be your favorite.
But this is the granddaddy segment.
Yep, this goes all the way back to the beginnings of Sports Frenzy. Back when we were on cable access and we had our wonderful producer, Tim Richardson, who would put together this glorious opening, probably violating copyright laws, but clipping up the best of Red Foreman. As Red Foreman would say in a classic episode of That 70s Show.
The way these guys are screwing up their lives, death would be a sweet release.
And so, we have kept this tradition going on and on and on, all through into the podcast. It is time for us to decide among 5 contestants this week who is the Red Foreman dumbass of the week. And I have already spoiled it for Dave, and I've told him ESPN makes 3 appearances out of the 5. Some good, some bad. Now, let me start off. I think I've said this before. I don't like fault finders. I hate fault finders, but I'm talking about in regular life. I don't want to have to go to a party or go to a social gathering.
Oh, you wore that to this?
Or you didn't say that right. Or you didn't spell that properly. I'm 5 beers in. I don't care. But now, if you get paid to do a job involving writing, whether it's editing books, putting together stories on a website, or for a local newscast, then
if you're running the teleprompt, if you're putting images and phrases on the screen, you better damn well make sure you're doing the right fucking job.
Because that's different. You're getting paid to do that and do that properly. That's different. So ESPN, they had this big warm-up to the NBA draft where they were introducing the players who were going to be in the green room, the ones who were there present before their names were called. And somehow, among the top players, they misidentified one of the players during this round 1 introduction.
Oof. So bad.
French player they showed along with his entourage, his family, his friends. French player was Tijane Salawan. I hope I got that name. A lot of tough fucking names to pronounce this week.
Yes, there are.
Tijane Salawan. I'm going to go with that. But they actually identified him as the kid that fell back to the Lakers in the middle of the first round, Dalton Knecht.
Wow. That's bad.
But we're not done with ESPN yet.
But wait, there's more.
We just talked about the Blackhawks. We talked about Teuvo Teravainen. And as I was reading the article, doing the research for this podcast, I was reading the story about Mr. Teravainen and his deal. And they gave a little background about Teuvo. And I had to double check it, triple check it to make sure I was reading it right. Because Mr. Teravainen must have a fucking DeLorean with 1.21 gigawatt capability. Because ESPN story said Teuvo Teravainen was a first-round pick for the Chicago Blackhawks in 2018 and then made his debut for the Blackhawks in 2014.
Oh.
And we know in actuality he was a first-round pick in 2012.
Oh my God.
Debuting in 2014. But again, I had to double and triple check this.
Wow, that's just
I was
awful.
like, does that really say he was drafted in 2018 but
2018.
debuted in 2014? Are you fucking kidding me? How bad is that? How bad
That's
is that?
just not cool.
All right, so now our third contender for this week's Red Forum and Dumbass of the Week, we're going to stick with hockey. We'll come back to ESPN, and the next time we'll defend them. But here, this is one that Dave suggested. If you guys remember a few years back, he went off. I mean, nuclear on his team, the Chicago Blackhawks. If you guys remember, there was a sex abuse scandal handled poorly beyond belief. Saying poorly is really not using strong enough language, resulting in not official, unofficial suspensions for a number of Blackhawks executives, including Stan Bowman,
Al McIsaac.
and then head coach Joel Quenneville.
Quenneville was no longer with the team when all of this came out, but he was forced to resign from coaching the Panthers. These three douchebags, along with owner Rocky Wirtz, who showed he wasn't that much different from his old man in many respects, swept under the rug the sexual assault committed by video coach Brad Aldrich against one of their players, Kyle Beach. Now, I'm pissed off at the players as well for not coming to Beach's defense as well. Got issues there, many and varied. But the top executives fucking swept it under the rug to make the Stanley Cup run. They didn't want to upset the apple cart. And then fucking Quenneville writes this guy a recommendation letter to go on and coach in college. And then at a high school level where he does the same fucking thing.
I told you, kids, nuclear. This is Oppenheimer level.
And now fucking Gary Bettman says, oh, well, now this suspension is over. You can talk to these guys again about openings. No! No, no, no. These three should not be allowed anywhere in the NHL again. Quenneville, over the summer, in an interview I heard, talking about how supposedly he was sorry that it happened and the way things worked out. He still sounded like he had no clue what the problem was with the way things were handled. Sounded absolutely clueless still. Does not deserve another shot. Stan Bowman, horrible GM. Yeah, he made some deals, but he also fucked the team over with the salary cap by not having a clue how to deal with money. And then McIsaac, forget about it. These guys should be gone, period, never to appear in the NHL again. Dumbass move by the NHL and Gary Bettman.
And you wonder where the advocacy groups are, you know? Where are the groups that come out and have the same kind of righteous indignation that you do? You know what I mean? Where are all these church groups, the groups that are supposed to protect the youth of the world from sexual abuse and sexual predators? All we hear about is Black Lives Matter and hashtag Me Too.
And you got three enablers right here being allowed right back at it.
Yep.
Still showing no genuine remorse or understanding that they did the wrong thing.
All right, speaking of someone who has no clue and shows no remorse over the way he has run his life, JaMarcus Russell, arguably the worst number one draft pick in the history of the NFL.
That tubagoo.
Now, he was lucky enough to be drafted into the NFL back when they were giving ridiculous guaranteed money to the top draft picks. Of course, now there is a much saner rookie salary scale before then they get crazy money later on. So JaMarcus Russell, you would think,
should have been set for life.
Guaranteed money, had to have gotten 40 to 50 million minimum. Not counting the salary he got for the first few years he was in the league before, as you mentioned, as a tub of goo, he was run out. JaMarcus Russell recently fired as a volunteer high school assistant coach. Why? Why, you may ask? Because he took a $74,000 check meant to be a donation to the school's football program and turned around and put it into his own account, and then proceeded to write a check for almost the full amount back to himself.
What a vile individual.
And this goes to show why the draft is a complete and total crapshoot, and how you could draft the most pathetic, borderline evil person at number one and have somebody like Brock Purdy sneak in at the very end.
Yeah, go figure. And hey, if you want to know what's the most memorable play JaMarcus Russell had in the NFL, YouTube butt fumble.
Well, I thought that was Mark Sanchez.
Was that Sanchez or
I think
Russell?
that was, maybe it was both of them, but I know Sanchez.
I thought Russell did that as well.
They both might have, but I know for sure Sanchez did.
Yeah, I thought JaMarcus did too.
Because Jets fans never let Mark Sanchez live down the butt fumble. And then finally, number 5, I mentioned I was going back to ESPN, but in this case, I will defend them. This is a case of a Karen getting butthurt about nothing. Now, we recently had, of course, the College World Series. ESPN covers that pretty much wall to wall. Now, you remember the old Seinfeld episode where George Costanza went to, the U.S. Open, and he took a break, and he got himself some ice cream, and the camera focused on him as he was slathering ice cream all over his face, and it was dripping all over his shirt? ESPN happened to focus on a couple women in the crowd at one of these College World Series games.
They were enjoying the soft serve.
Yeah, one of them, I believe, had a cone that was melting quickly, so she had to
eat quickly.
Yes. And that's all, I believe, Carl Ravitch, of all people, one of the most prestigious, famous announcers at ESPN, all they were saying was, they panned to the crowd, they showed these two women eating ice cream, and he said something like, it's hot out there, you better hurry up and finish that off.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
The problem is it made it as a meme. And of course, social media
better finish that off quick.
Yes, social media, of course, did every nasty, disgusting, horrible, awful, vile thing you could say about these two women quickly eating their melting ice cream. But do the women blame social media? No. One of the women involved goes on to blame ESPN for sexualizing her and her friend.
They sexualize nothing.
And everybody is actually coming to the defense of ESPN here, saying, my God, crowd shots have been around forever, ever since TV started covering sports. And they said nothing tawdry or suggestive about you eating ice cream. Stop being a Karen and bitching and pissing and moaning about the fact that somebody else out there, some troll, some pervo troll in his basement, his mom's basement, made it into a sexual meme. Blame the right people. In this case, do not blame ESPN. And lick that cone, baby. Lick that cone.
Wow.
I did not make the meme, though. I did not. I swear to God. I'm not skilled enough to do that.
Yep, I'll have to dig in, but I may have to apologize for incorrectly saying JaMarcus Russell had a
So
butt
he didn't
fumble.
have a butt fumble.
I got to do more research, but he did sack himself.
That sounds better. That sounds better. I could see him because he was so freaking uncoordinated. Oh my God. And wasn't he the one that was also known for drinking was it the crank? Like this Kool-Aid drink?
Yeah.
Some kind of weird alcoholic Kool-Aid drink. I think he was known for that too.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't going to dispute the butt fumble. It could happen. Obviously, I think it's happened more
it's
than just
happened
once.
many times. He may
But
have had
Sanchez,
one of those. Sanchez is the most recent.
Is the most popular.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Dave. We have got ESPN Part 1 for misidentifying a player in the NBA draft. ESPN Part 2 for screwing up Timo Teravainen's tenure with the Blackhawks. ESPN Part 3, the woman, the Karen, claiming that they sexualized her and her friend eating ice cream. We have the NHL, of course, reinstating all those former Chicago executives. And then we have one JaMarcus Russell.
I'm going with JaMarcus Russell.
We're doing a
fist
bump, even though you can't see it. We're doing a fist bump. What just a despicable. I know the NHL thing really pisses you off, and it should, but it doesn't surprise me. It just doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't.
The fact that JaMarcus Russell keeps figuring out ways to dig himself a deeper hole
just boggles the mind
as he gets older. It's ridiculous. It is true dumbassery. Hall of Fame level dumbassery. And it's the only Hall of Fame you're ever going to get close to, JaMarcus.
Yep, there you go.
All right. He's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
Don't forget to check out the weekend edition. Mentioned it earlier, Nickelback, That 90s Show, The Boys, Upgrade. And, of course, we will have a handful of dumbasses. I think the dumbasses for the weekend edition are even better.
Yeah.
You know, there are some weeks where I've got to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Literally, not figuratively, because we're doing it figuratively every week. But this week, I got some good ones for the weekend edition. So it'll be a very tough decision for you. As you say, what?
We are judge. We are jury. We are executioners.
There you go. So do not forget to check out Saturday morning, July the 6th, the weekend edition. We hope you enjoyed this slightly early sports edition.
Yep. Have a happy and safe 4th of July.
Next week, it's just me solo. And we're also switching recording platforms. So that should be a fucking blast. Finally, we're getting booted. We were supposed to get booted off Spotify's recording platform a month ago.
But they gave us a reprieve.
Yeah, well, now the hammer's fallen. So, lucky for you, you get out of it next week, and I got to figure this shit out myself.
Yes, family commitments rear their ugly heads.
But until next week, say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.